Hello, and today I'm showing my game from the 8th round of Under 16 in 2010. I was black against a very strong, very solid opponent, and let's see how it went. I went for a rare opening d4 c5. I think it's called check Benoni, and it is very passive, but it suits my style, so I was liking it at the moment. And the point is, after d5 I play e5 and try to go for this structure. He plays e4, I play d6, and now after bishop e7 I want to go bishop g5 and exchange dark square bishops. But here, and also if he goes for something like knight f3 here, I can go bishop g4, take on f3, and then I can play bishop g5 next, and position gets simplified, my pieces get more breathing space, and the position should be slightly better for white, but it is possible to hold it. But instead he plays f4, which is a very aggressive move. And here I took. I don't think that there is something better, because I need to keep... because if I do something normal like knight f6, he will create a passed pawn on d5, and I don't want that. So I took on f4, bishop takes, knight f4, knight d2. And here I wanted to make this bishop disappear from f4, because it's really unpleasant attacking on d6, and I wanted to play knight h5, bishop e3, and now bishop f6. It was better to play bishop g4 here, to get out my bishop, and h3 is not possible just yet, because g3 is very weak in that case. And I would continue with knight d7, maybe put my knight to e5, and all my pieces would be decently placed. Instead I played bishop f6, like I said. And here c3, of course, to close this bishop. And now I try to fianchetto my bishop with g6. He castles, and my pieces are slightly awkward in this situation, because knight on h5 doesn't do anything. Bishop on f6 is very limited. Knight on b8, like you see, it's not working at all. Bishop on c8 is very passive, so I played knight d7 to somehow try to activate my pieces. But still, it was better to play bishop g4 here, just to exchange some pieces and get my knight into the game. Instead I played this, and now problems occur, because now knight c4 defends from knight e5, because the same problem, if you do this, I can take, and even c5 is hanging, so that's even a bigger problem. After this, bishop c5, and I would lose a pawn, at least a pawn. So I went knight b6, trying to exchange, because when I lack space I need to exchange, in general. But anyways, he took, and got his other knight back to c4. And now the position gets really, really bad really soon. I got back, because white would anyways attack me on c4. Queen f3, and now his threat is very simple. He wants to go g4 to push this knight from defending a bishop, and I would lose a piece. So I had to go bishop e5 here. Because let's say if I go bishop g7, he has g4 again. And if I go back, bishop g5 is very unpleasant. I think it's even winning a piece, because I cannot get out of this pin. So bishop e5 was played, knight c4, and it's a problem because I played already g6 and my dark squares would be really weakened if I gave up my bishop. But for some reason I didn't go bishop. Well, bishop h8 would be the only way to go, but it's still not the luckiest solution, because after g4 you cannot go here because bishop g5, and again the same problem. And if you go to g7, it's kind of tragicomic, because bishop and knight don't do anything, and it's a very passive, very sad position. So I chose to give up this bishop. And at this point I was thinking like that I'm doing okay, because even though I gave up my dark square bishop, I can arrange some defense like f6, knight g7, bishop d7, double on f file, and somehow try to hold this position. I was aware that it wasn't ideal, but I thought that I could somehow patch my position up. But I didn't consider next sequence of moves. Bishop h6 was played. I cannot move my rook because f7 pawn is hanging, so I have to go knight g7, and now a very strong move, queen f6. And now the point of this is, if I capture, he takes, and now d6 is very weak. If I go rook d8, he goes bishop f4, or simply he just doubles first. That's even better. And if rook d7, then bishop b5. And this results in losing either f pawn or d6 pawn. And also I have trouble with my back rank, because rook e7 doesn't lose e4 pawn, because on this I have rook d8, and it's losing a knight at least. So after queen f6 I had a tough decision to make, because if I move my knight I'm losing the exchange, and I did this, knight e8. And I gave up the exchange voluntarily, because I didn't have anything better to do. And I was hoping to arrange some fortress on the board. So he exchanged, which is logical, he took, and he went for b4, which I was happy to see, because it is a bit premature. I think he could just place lower than he did. And I took, because I didn't want to play b6 to get some additional weaknesses like on c5. I think he would eventually break me with doubling on b file and exchanging one pair of rooks. So I took, and I hoped that he wouldn't break me on the c file, because I can always cover up with my bishop, and in case of rook c7 I can always go bishop d7, and you don't have bishop b5 because knight takes. So after rook fe1 he played bishop d7, rook c5, and now I'm just waiting for him to make a move, to do something concrete. I played rook c8, trying to exchange one pair of rooks, but not on c5. I wanted to push b6. After king f2 I played b6, because, you know, if I take on c5, then his two pawns are gonna be really limiting my pieces, and next he would go rook b1, attacking on b7, which would be hard to meet. So king f2, b6. I want to keep the structure symmetrical, like in this case. He took, I took back, and king f3. He's playing it slowly now, but it's getting a bit trickier to play. I played king d6, g4, h6, h4, and after which, after any move, h5 or g5, I'm just passing. On h5 I play g5, on g5 I play h5, and I keep the position blocked. But still, he has one plan to win the game. At least one plan, which I saw. King e7 and now rook a1. He's choosing the wrong plan because I think the move he did is just making it easier for me to defend. The right way to go was to go rook c1, rook c3 and rook a3. And even though my knight is defending on a7, he can do bishop a6 and let's say I play king d6, rook c3, king e7, or something else. Let's do this. Never mind, rook a3, king d6, and now bishop a6. And now if he goes here, I think I have bishop b7, and a7 pawn is lost. So rook a1 is the wrong plan to play in this position. Knight d6. I'm just going back and forth. He goes a4, bishop e8, and now he makes it so tough for himself to win with a5. Now I block, and now I'm not. I think this is now a dead draw because there are no entry points on the queen side. I'm always gonna defend by king d8. c6 is covered. c5 doesn't make much difference, and the king doesn't have any entry points, so it's a full fortress in this case. I never gave up, and that's what happened in return. King d8 to stop rook c7, and now my plan is simple. I just move my bishop back and forth, and this should be a draw. He plays g5 here, king e3, and now I just shuffle my bishop. And even though he exchanges my bishop with my knight alone, I can hold this position without any problems. Now I just move my knight back to c8 and d6, and there's no problem. Cannot break through. And he tried the last trick in the position. He plays rook b6, but here I played king c7 and I offered a draw. And he accepted because he saw that he cannot make any progress, and of course he was really upset after the game. And that's how I kept my chances for the medal alive. So the moral of the story is that you should never give up. If it's not clear to you how your opponent can win, like in this case, at the moment I wasn't sure how my opponent can win against me, so I kept playing, and I knew that I was lost at some point, but I kept playing, and a good thing happened. So it was a really boring game, but it was a really instructive one also. Have a good day and see you. Bye.